Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to the fifth round. We are previewing UFC 237, and oh boy, what a card we have, especially the last three fights of the night. In the main event, we've got Namajunas with her second title defense in the strawweight division up against Jessica Andrade. We've also got Jared Cannonier against Silva, and a potential number one contendership match in the featherweight division with Volkanovski versus Jose Aldo. Now, of course, this is in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, and they've got three of the biggest stars. We've got two legends in Silva and Jose Aldo who are coming towards the end of their game, potentially having their last fights. And we've also got Jessica Andrade, who is coming through that strawweight division and looking to claim the title off Thug Rose, who has taken a year out. So yes, make sure to drop a like, subscribe to Cage Chat, and let's get in to UFC 237 preview. So we're going to kick it off with Alexander Volkanovski versus Jose Aldo. Now it's the number one featherweight versus number 4. Now Jose Aldo is coming off the back of a 2-fight win streak in terms of defeating defeating Jeremy Stephens and Renato Moicano, both via TKO. On the other hand, we've got Volkanovski, who's come off a win against Chad Mendes, again via TKO. So we've got two absolute knockout merchants coming into this weekend's card. Now, Aldo comes into this fight with a 1-inch height advantage and also a 4-inch leg reach advantage, which means he's probably going to be looking for those kicks. He has got a shorter arm reach than Volkanovski has, so Volkanovski is going to be able to get those jabs in, get the striking in, and it's going to be up to Jose Aldo to gauge the distance, get those kicks in on the fires, especially on the lead hand, very much like he did against Jeremy Stephens. Get the kicks in, wear down that leg, make the jab almost ineffective because you can't sort of get that power through the lead leg and into your jab. So it's another nullification of the jab. And then he can get in closer and work the body like he did again against Jeremy Stephens to get in that vicious TKO via body strikes. Now they have very similar TKO or KO victories at around the 60% mark for both fighters. So we're going to be looking at this fight to not make the distance, and also for one of them to get their arm raised and Bruce Buffer to be calling via TKO. And I expect that to happen. Both of them have got dynamite in their hands for the division, and neither of them are one to really back down. Both Volkanovski is that up-and-coming, blood-hungry or bloodthirsty fighter, and Jose Aldo is the king of the featherweights, almost like the gatekeeper to Max Holloway at the moment. You got him and Frankie Edgar, and below him sort of Chad Mendes. It goes, if you beat Chad Mendes, you get Frankie Edgar or Jose Aldo, and if you beat one of those two, you genuinely get a title shot, as Brian Ortega did. And Brian Ortega is back fit and healthy after his UFC 231 loss to Max Holloway. So he's going to have his gorgeous blue eyes on this fight, I'm sure. So yes, Volkanovski has 6 strikes per minute compared to Jose Aldo's 3 per minute. So it's going to be a volume fight. You're going to have 2 strikes from Volkanovski, while Aldo is going to be looking to counter with 1 punch, maybe to the body or to the face, try and break that guard. And worryingly for Jose Aldo, he also absorbs more. So not only is he going to be facing more, he's going to be getting hit a lot more than Volkanovski in this fight, should the stats more or less play out the story. Now, stats can't always be focused around, and it certainly doesn't play out the story all the time, but you can get a good idea as to what's going to happen this weekend. Now, moving on to the grappling, Volkanovski does actually average more takedowns per fight, or per 15 minutes, which this is a 3-round fight, as no titles on the line. It's not a main event, although it could be a main event on a fight night, guaranteed pretty much. So if it's not working on the striking, on the feet for Volkanovski, you could certainly expect him to look to grab a takedown, probably 1 per round. Maybe, he's on 3 per 15 minutes, so he's probably going to look to take it down once per round at least, take the fight to the ground and get some ground and pound in there. However, saying that, Aldo does have a better accuracy, and he has a 92% takedown defense. So even if Volkanovski wants to take him down, he's going to get 3 chances anyway, perhaps, based on his average. None of them are going to be successful because Aldo is such a brilliant has such a brilliant takedown defense at 92%, which is staggering in the UFC considering how long he's been in there at both UFC and WEC. Now, I don't know if their stats calculate since the UFC has essentially thought just UFC fights, or if they include the WEC fights prior to that. So yes, I think this is one of those fights. There's going to be two, well, maybe three fighters on watch this. You've got Max Holloway, a champion. You've got Brian Ortega and Zabit Magomedsharipov. And should Volkanovski win, he gets the number one contender fight. If Aldo wins, you'd have to say maybe Magomedsharipov versus Ortega potentially to find out a number one contender, or Volkanovski versus Magomedsharipov, because although you want to see Aldo give them the title fight, he's already lost twice to Max Holloway, and a third fight, although it would be fun, and maybe he could recapture the gold and beat Max Holloway. He's had two chances to. Could be third time lucky for Jose Aldo. I don't really want to see that fight again, especially how the second one went so heavily in Max Holloway's favour. But we've got a new Jose Aldo, and we've got an Aldo who's looking towards the end of his career now. He said he's only got 2, I think, or 3 fights left in him. So he's going to be retiring at the end of the year. Just a matter of will his last fight potentially it could be this weekend. Should he win, he might want to retire in Brazil, in front of his home nation. But I don't think he's going to win this fight. I think Volkanovski's going to have too much. I think Volkanovski's going to get a TKO victory against Jose Aldo, and maybe win or loss, it could be Jose Aldo's last fight, which could be very sad. It's a legacy-defining career he's had, and a division-building one as well, especially in the featherweight division. You know, you've only had 3 champions, him, Conor, and Max Holloway now. But I think Volkanovski's hungry enough for that title shot, and he's not going to want to let that slip by him this weekend. Another fighter who's potentially coming towards the end of his career is Anderson Silva, of course, another legend in the sport, former middleweight champion. He had that horrific leg break against Chris Weidman, and he, of course, fought Israel Adesanya, who's now UFC interim champion, back in February at UFC 234, and he looked very, very good for a 42-year-old or 44-year-old. In fact, he still has that speed. He's aged, and you can see that's aged in him. I was looking at his top five finishes just last night, and the once against Forrest Griffin is absolutely superb. To have your hands down and pick him up that quickly and put Forrest Griffin away, who albeit was tired and probably done, he had his heart. He showed his heart and grit in that fight, but it was superb from the Spider, Anderson Silva. And he faces up Jared Cannonier, who's come down from light heavyweight to the middleweight division, and he recently, of course, fought David Branch in November at UFC 230, and he KO'd him inside the second round. Now this is the number 10 versus number 14 match. Is a win for Cannonier would probably push him into the top 7 in what is a stacked division. Maybe you could see him fight maybe Jack Hermansson, although Jack Hermansson's probably looking at a title shot. And should Anderson Silva win, it could be his retirement fight, but I think he's got 1, maybe 2 left in him, but he said he does want to end it in Brazil, and this is probably his best chance to, as you don't know when the next Brazil cards are going to be, whether it's going to be in a year, 18 months, and I don't really want to see a 43, 44 or 45-year-old Anderson Silva fighting in the octagon. Now Anderson Silva comes into the fight 3 inches taller than Cannonier, but they have the same reach, which is kind of surprising considering the height difference. Now, Anderson does also have a 1-inch leg reach advantage to this fight, so you're going to be looking at kicks, you're going to be looking at punches. Now, both of these actually have a very similar, again, TKO or KO victory percentage as well, in terms of how their fights have been won. Is a very similar percentage again as it was like for Volkanovski and Aldo. So you're going to probably be looking at KO or TKO victory for either one of these. Now, the fact that Cannonier has come down from light heavyweight and even heavyweight, I think I saw a tweet from the UFC with him at heavyweight. He's obviously carried that power, and it makes you think what the likes of Daniel Cormier could do if he cut down to that 185, if he could even. And you got these bigger guys, could they carry that power down a division, or 2 divisions in fact? But he looks like he's found his home, and he looks superb against Branch. And to have that sort of power, if Anderson Silva mistimes a a slip or a lean, he's going to get KO'd, and it's going to be a horrible night for him should he decide to retire. Now going into that, Cannonier lands more strikes, just slightly, but Anderson Silva also absorbs more, so this does not look good in the favour of Anderson Silva, but he is the Spider. Now stats-wise of grappling, neither of these have a dominant grappling sort of stat base, but Anderson Silva is very good off his back and has an incredible jiu-jitsu range, so should he take the fight to the floor or to the mat, you'd expect Anderson Silva to get the better edge over Jared Cannonier. And I think Anderson Silva is actually going to do it. I think there's something written in the stars that it's either going to be his last fight or second to last fight. And I think there's something where there's going to be something magical that happens. Now, it's either going to be Aldo or Anderson Silva who wins, and I think the other one will lose. So I think Aldo's going to lose, but Anderson Silva wins on Saturday night. And I think he's going to get it done by decision. I can see this fight going all the way. I think Anderson Silva, if he's quick, if he's got his leans, he's got his lean and going, his defense is where it should be for him, and how it was against Israel Adesanya, because he did defend very well. He looked like the Anderson Silva that you see in the highlights footage, other than just a couple of years older. So yes, I'm going to back Anderson Silva to win in the co-main event of the night, and that takes us to the main event, which is Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade. Now, Rose Namajunas is coming back after a year out from UFC 223, where she defended her title against Joanna Jędrzejczyk after beating the Polish strawweight champion back in November of 2017. Now, since then, of course, we had the bus incident at UFC 223 from Conor McGregor, and that caused Rose Namajunas to need some time out to recover from that, of course, the PTSD, the anxiety that she faced. Now, she was very quiet on that bus. She didn't really make a sound. She certainly didn't move from the footage that was on the embedded series, and she was obviously very scared, and it was a scary moment for all involved. Now, it's a shame because the way she fought against Jędrzejczyk in both the first match where she won the title in the first round and a 5-round brawl where she retained the title, she was almost becoming a star. And having that year out, she's not been forgotten about, but the division's almost been on hold. And Jessica Andrade has come through. She knocked out Karolina Kowalkiewicz in her last fight in September with a vicious combo, a left hand and a right hand, that Karolina Kowalkiewicz took her first, I think, TKO or KO loss inside the octagon, especially inside the UFC. And you just have to see the parameters of where the strawweight division is at the moment, because those four people, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Andrade, and Namajunas, are all the four last fighters to either defend the title or challenge for the title. So you can see where the skill set is. Now, Andrade, for me, she comes in this the power hitter, and Namajunas is going to be looking to take this to the ground and use her submission game. Now, interestingly, Namajunas has a 67% win ratio via submission in the victories that she's had inside the octagon, whereas for Jessica Andrade, it's almost a 30% split between TKO, KO, submission, and decision, with TKO and KO being counted within the same bracket. So, if you're going for a victory for Andrade, you have a 1 in 3 chance of being right for a decision, a submission, or TKO, KO victory. Whereas Namajunas, if you're going for a Namajunas victory, going to probably be looking at a submission. Now, worryingly for Namajunas, Andrade does land almost double the punches and strikes that Namajunas does per minute. So you'd expect to be seeing a lot of volume, a lot of power, a lot of intensity from Jessica Andrade, who's in her home nation. She's in the main event, and she's going to have that Brazilian crowd behind her. Now, Rose Namajunas is coming out of America to defend her title, which is noble, and she's obviously got Pat Berry, she's got a great team around her, and she's coming into this quietly confident. She's almost, with how quiet she is, she's almost scary. Well, it is kind of scary when she's quiet. I can't imagine what she's like when she's angry, if she's this quiet in a normal calm state. But Andrade, I think, is going to be too much, especially on the feet. Andrade wins this all day, but UFC, MMA, fights don't always last on the feet. Now, on the other hand, Andrade, who does land more strikes. She also absorbs more than Rose Namajunas. So albeit she might be striking more, she's going to be getting hit a lot more than Namajunas potentially, which means Namajunas could also do what she did against Yoni Jacek again against Jessica Andrade, and that would be almost a massive upset for the Brazilian crowd. Well, it would be an upset for the Brazilian crowd, but it'd almost be an upset. I feel like Rose Namajunas is coming into this fight almost as an underdog, like she was against Yoni Jacek for the first fight, and partially for the second fight, although she had more about her in terms of interest and sort of backers saying that she would win the fight again after she was so dominant. Now, interestingly, again, this surprised me. Andrade does have more takedowns on average per 15 than Rose Namajunas, but it is very close. It's like 3.1 to 2.7. So, this is per 15, so we're going through a 25-minute match. There's going to be 4 or 5 takedowns tried by Andrade, and similarly, it's going to be about 6, I reckon, for Namajunas. Now, with that in mind, there is a similar takedown accuracy. There's only 1% in it, 59% to 58%. That's in favour of Rose Namajunas this time. So she's more likely to get the takedown than Andrade is. Now, once the takedown's been done by Namajunas, she has a very brilliant jiu-jitsu game and a ground game where she's going to get a rear naked choke and maybe an armbar. If it gets to that stage, you're going to have to say Namajunas is going to get the victory on the ground here in Brazil. But then you think that again, and Andrade has a better defense by 30% in terms of takedowns, 75% to 45%. And that's kind of worrying for Namajunas. If she's got two takedowns in her per 15, say 3.5, 4 per 25, and 3 of them are going to get stifled by Jessica Andrade, but it does only take 1 for Namajunas, and it could only take 1 takedown for her to retain the belt for the second time, and maybe line up a fight against the likes of Tatiana Suarez or someone like Yoni and Jacek is of course in the title picture. But you'd have to say if Namajunas wins this fight, Yoni and Jacek would be almost back of the line. But if it goes to Andrade, those two did fight previously, and Yoni and Jacek came out victorious for that one, so she would have a bit of the leg to stand on in terms of saying, I've already beat you, and I deserve the title shot. She was the most dominant strawweight. Now finally, Namajunas obviously has a higher submission average, but it's not that high. It's about 0.8 to 0.4 in favour of Namajunas here. So again, quite obviously, Namajunas is going to probably look for the takedowns hit in this fight. She's going to look to get the submission. She's already come out and said in her open workouts her plan is to take Andrade's back and choke her out until she's unconscious or taps. And that's her way of retaining her belt and taking it back to America. But Andrade, for me, has that. There's something about her, and again, she's not an underdog, but she's someone who's up and coming. Although Namajunas, you could say, is still up and coming in terms of UFC stardom. But I think Andrade gets it done. I think that year out for Namajunas really hurt her. I think if she fought in the likes of November, she could have headlined UFC 230 had the bus incident not gone ahead. Derek Lewis and Daniel Cormier saved that event really. But I'm going to back, and maybe quite foolishly, Jessica Andrade. I think she's going to get it done in her hometown, in her home nation in Brazil, and I think she's going to be able to bask in glory on top of that octagon with the belt in hand. The new legacy belt, of course. Namajunas doesn't have that belt yet. She has the nicer belt, shall we say. But I think her reign's over as a champion. Now, whether she gets a rematch, who knows? Depending on the outcome of victory for Andrade, she might be deserving of one. But I think Tatiana Suarez is probably next in line should she win her fight next. So yes, let me know your thoughts in the comments for UFC 237. BJ Penn's also on the card, but I'm not really too interested in that. Are you interested in that? He's fighting Clay Guida in the prelims. He's opened up the prelims for UFC 237, which will be on ESPN, I believe, or ESPN Plus because it's a pay-per-view. I'm not sure how this is working out now for you Americans. It's easy in the UK. We have BT Sport. You pay your subscription and you watch all of the UFC content, and UFC programming is involved with that. So it's beautiful over here. So shout out to those people watching on ESPN Plus. Make sure you subscribe to the Fifth Round. It is free and you don't have 2 paywalls to go through. So subscribe to Cage Chat. Follow the socials at Cage Chat YT on both Instagram and Twitter. And Put your predictions in the comments below. Who's winning? Anderson Silva? Is he going to retire? Like sort of Aldo, is he going to retire? Is he going to get a victory against Volkanovski? And who's walking out of Rio with the UFC Strawweight Championship?